Today on the Fantasy Fallout, we're going to be discussing the Bengals wide receiver room. Jamar Chase going to be back, but T. Higgins concussed. And then is J.J. McCarthy potentially the worst quarterback to ever grace an NFL field? And then finally, Shadur Sanders, have the Browns finally found their quarterback of the future, or was it just a matchup with the Raiders? All that and more coming up. Guys, welcome into the Fantasy Fallout. He is Mike Johnson. I am Cheeseman, your host, and this is presented, as always, by 1 Week Season. Actually, I forgot to even put this up. Hold on a sec, Mike. Black Friday deals. We got 80% off, guys. Subscriptions. Head to oneweekseason.com. Check out the deals we have going on over there. And with all that to say, Mike, how you doing, man? How was your weekend?
Hey, terrific. I'm good. This is like the busiest week of the year, basically. I coach high school basketball. We start practice last Monday. So I had the first week of that. And then obviously with little kids, we've got Thanksgiving stuff going on. And it's basically three slates within an 8-day period between yesterday, Thursday, and then next Sunday. So, this is what we're here for, though. There'll be a random Tuesday in April where I'll be like, "Damn, I'm bored." I got to remind myself of that sometimes.
What time do you guys just like 5 to 7 kind of thing? Do you practice every day for high school ball? I mean, I'm sure you do.
It's usually right after school every day. Kids get out at like 3:15, and then we go after that for usually a couple hours. So, and then game nights are a little different. With game nights are actually easier because then I can pick the kids up and get them set for dinner before I have to leave. But it's this intersection of life, a crazy couple of months, but it's fun.
It is. I love that, man. Yeah, I miss high school basketball. I played all 4 years, so I wasn't a big star or anything like that, but I definitely miss it. Okay. Let's jump in to the first game here, guys. Again, we just go over every game that from this past weekend, so week 12, and Mike breaks down kind of the fantasy implications of what we saw. So we'll start. There was no Saturday game. I guess I'll start with the Thursday game. The Texans beating the Bills. Man, I mean, obviously a bit of a surprising outcome, though. It's actually not that surprising. We've come to expect the unexpected from the Bills so far this season.
Yeah, they've been, maddeningly inconsistent. They're at 7-4 now. It's going to be kind of a crazy last few weeks for the AFC. The Bills and the Chiefs, and Ravens, the three perennial powers in the AFC are all kind of right on the borderline, but they all have, probably Hall of Fame quarterbacks when it's all said and done, and very good rosters around them. So, the Bills are probably the one I'm most concerned about, just because, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but their structural flaws, and the Texans really exposed that. That was the first time all year, even in the Bills' other losses, their offensive line was just thoroughly dominated by Houston. So Houston's kind of a dark horse if they can get things together, because they've got an elite defense. So when you have that, you can kind of beat anyone. But the Bills, their next couple matchups are the Steelers, Bengals, and Patriots. And when the Bengals will have probably Burrow, Chase, and Higgins back. We'll get to Cincinnati in a little bit, but that's not going to be a pushover despite what the record might say. From a usage standpoint, it just kind of is what it is. Khalil Shakir, he came off like a goose egg when Josh Allen smashed in week 11, and then he had a big game here as they were trying to keep up with the Texans. So I think, he's kind of the main guy that they're looking to use, but hopefully they can get Dalton Kincaid back this coming Sunday and kind of get back on track. But their run defense continues to be an issue. The Texans aren't really a team that's going to expose that too bad, but even them, Woody Marks, 16 carries for 74 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. So, yeah, I mean, he's kind of taken over the Houston backfield. Nico Collins had a little bit of a down game, but Christian Kirk and Jaden Higgins picked him up. So, that'll be interesting from the Houston side of things. They're 6-5 down the stretch. They've got, a couple tough games, but also, they play the Colts, who they are 2 games behind, they still play them twice. And then they have matchups with the Raiders and Cardinals mixed in there as well. So they could make a run at the division after, a couple weeks ago, you would have thought, this is Indy's division to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird looking at the AFC. It's like, is this 2013-14 with the Patriots, Broncos, and Colts? It's funny to see. Okay, so next game here we got Baltimore and the New York Jets. Wouldn't have thought it, but 5 weeks ago the Ravens were 1-5. Now they actually lead the division, so they have certainly climbed out of the cellar. The Jets is kind of nothing really super new to report as far as the Jets go.
Yeah, so Breece Hall, he had a nice game, nice receiving game. A couple weeks back, he broke that long touchdown on a screen pass against the Browns, and since then he's been a little more involved in the passing game. So he's going to be an every week starter.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's not really anyone else on the Jets that should be too appealing. Obviously, this wasn't an easy matchup. They've got home games against the Falcons and Dolphins coming up, and then road games against the Jaguars and Saints. So a nice little schedule coming up. Breece Hall should be in store for a nice run here. And then Tyrod Taylor taking over as the starter. This game was more competitive. They kept it closer than the final score would probably indicate. So, Tyrod Taylor did a nice job. And then their wide receivers are led by John Mechie and Adonai Mitchell, former second-round picks, kind of reclamation projects that are still pretty young. And that's pretty interesting down the stretch, especially with these some of these matchups they've got coming up. Will be interesting, we're going to see teams maybe shut that guys down with injuries, teams as they kind of fall out of playoff contention, or as guys have things come up and there's only a month left in the season, start taking the long view with some of these more high-profile players. So sometimes you need to have some of those guys on the radar. And I think Mitchell and Mechie are a couple of guys who could be those kind of out-of-nowhere gems that keep your fantasy team afloat down the stretch.
Yeah, that's very true. And especially, with playoffs coming up and usage a lot of times shifting, you got to keep sharp on the waiver wire with those kind of potential pickups.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the Ravens?
No, Derrick Henry scored 2 touchdowns. He wasn't very effective. He dominated the backfield work. Justice Hill returned in this game, but Henry had 23 opportunities. Keaton Mitchell had 3, and Justice Hill didn't have any. Henry only played a little over 50% of the snaps, so those other guys were mixing in. But when they want to pound the rock, he's going to be that guy. Obviously, they have like the best possible matchup for a running back on Thursday. They play the Bengals, then they play the Steelers, and then the Bengals again. So really, they've kind of got a chance here. We've been talking about it a while. They control their own destiny. They've got 4 AFC North matchups in their last 6 games, along with games against the Patriots and Packers. So their defense has been playing well. Kyle Hamilton, their star defensive back, he did suffer an injury at one point. I haven't seen any updates at this point, but that'll certainly be one to monitor for their opponents, but also for what type of game scripts we're likely to see from them, because they didn't really push things because they didn't really have to, although they started really slow. They were down 7-0 kind of deep into the first half. The only guys we can really count on are Lamar, and then Zay Flowers is clearly their top. He's kind of almost his skill set. He's talented and fast enough to where he can break off a big game, but he's almost like a Stephon Diggs at this point, where he's clearly the top receiver on their team, but the way they play and how they spread things around and kind of get lots of guys involved, it feels like he's a guy you got to start every week in your season-long league, but he's probably not going to give you many of those big scores that are going to win your matchup, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Bears and Steelers. Bears getting the 3-point win. Man, Bears are a game out of first in the NFC. Main takeaways from this one, kind of just, pretty high scoring game, pretty even, not an even split in the Steelers back. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell, 9.2 yards a carry. Interesting. Not that that's going to like necessarily result in him being a must play, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, the Bears were without 6 defensive starters in this game, including all 3 linebackers. They suffered a couple more injuries as the game went on. But yeah, to their credit, they pulled out the win here against Mason Rudolph. The Steelers' offense didn't really look that different, to be honest, from what we saw with Aaron Rodgers. Like, they involved a bunch of guys. There's 4 receivers, 3 tight ends, and 2 running backs who are all involved. A lot of dink and dunk, very low ADOT type of attack. Scored on like a designed goal line like swing pass. I think they counted it as a rush because it was thrown backwards, but it was kind of a pass out to the flat. But he's kind of similar to the Flowers and Diggs archetype, where we're not kind of. It doesn't feel like we're going to see many. Like, each of those guys, they'll probably have one game down the stretch where they'll like really pop off. But otherwise, it's just going to be these consistent like 8 to 14 point outings, and you just kind of got to live with it unless you've got better options. So that kind of is what it is. There's no other receivers or tight ends you can trust at all. But the backfield with Kenneth Gainwell and Jaylen Warren, it's a clear multiple back committee. Warren is kind of the lead back for base downs and for carries. Gainwell still being involved. Gainwell caught 6 passes yesterday. Warren caught none. So kind of frustrating from a fantasy standpoint because, sometimes those situations are better if one guy's doing all he gets all the pass work and the goal line work sometimes, and then the other guy's getting kind of the empty carries. Then you know which one to play. But right now, Warren's been very efficient. He's getting the most carries, and he gets goal line work. And Gainwell, he gets some base carries. He gets some receptions. So kind of, both of them are going to continue to be involved. Like I said, they've played the Bengals twice already. They just played the Bears. So those are kind of the nuts for running back matchups. But it probably is going to get a little bit more difficult down the stretch. They do have one more good one against the Bills coming up. But then they've got the Ravens, the Lions, the Browns, and the Ravens are 4 of their last 5 games. So going to be hard to trust that situation there. And then on the flip side of it, similar thing, backfield. Monangai is taking enough work to be frustrating for Swift owners, but not enough where you can really trust him unless you're in really a bind. And then for the receiving game, you've got Caleb Williams threw 3 touchdowns, led them to another win. Bears 8-3, leading the NFC North, which coming into the season seemed like quite the long shot. But DJ Moore, 2 touchdowns. I think he was coming off a goose egg within the last couple of weeks. So the biggest thing for their usage is the rookies, Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. Their involvement continues to grow. And I think down the stretch, especially if like Burden has clearly become the 3rd wide receiver for the Bears, 62% route rate last week, played way above Olamide Zaccheaus. But if Moore or Odunze, if one of those guys ever misses, Burden is like a must start because he's just very talented. And Colston Loveland has kind of usurped Cole Kmet. So if we ever get another time where he gets a true full, the full 80, 90% snap share some other guys get, he's kind of a must start too. So those are guys who definitely should not be on any waiver wires.
Awesome. All right, moving on to the Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. Patriots getting a 6-point win, kind of a low-scoring affair, but kind of, I guess you expected it. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the surprising thing kind of was the Patriots have been very good against the run, but where they've been able to be beat was by running backs through the air. But in this game, Chase Brown went over 100 rushing yards. It was 5.6 yards per carry. He was 19 carries for 107 yards. Again, had a dominant workload with Samaje Perine out again, expecting Perine out for Thursday as well. But it was surprising to see that kind of efficiency in what was supposed to be kind of a tougher matchup on the ground. And he only caught 2 passes. So he had a nice game, which I think most people expected, but it wasn't necessarily, he didn't get there in the way that we thought he might. But Joe Flacco, his last game as a starter, they're going to have Joe Burrow back on Thursday. So as long as he doesn't aggravate that toe or get a different injury, it'll be Burrow the rest of the way. Jamar Chase was out this game with suspension. The Patriots and Christian Gonzalez kind of really slowed down T. Higgins. He only had 5 catches for 31 yards, and then he left the game late in the fourth quarter with a concussion. Yeah. So he will miss this week's game. There's just no way to pass the protocol from Sunday to Thursday, and it's in his best interest not to try. And then he should be back, I would think, for week 14. So this coming week, we'll have the Burrow and Chase show without T. Higgins. Yeah. In prime time, when we're all stuffed Thursday night, it will be, we'll get the show back on the road. That'll be an interesting one because there's a lot of dynamics at play there with those two coming back. But then what kind of rust do they have? What kind of reps? It's a short week. And then the Baltimore thing we already talked about with Kyle Hamilton, and then any potential injuries. So, but obviously we're starting Jamar Chase everywhere. So that now a lot needs to be gone into there. Patriots side, we talked about Diggs briefly. Hunter Henry had a massive game. Bengals are terrible against tight ends. Nothing surprising there. And then the running back split, Ramondre Stevenson returned. Travion Henderson maintained a 72% snap share, had the majority of the backfield work with 18 carries to only 6 for Ramondre, and Ramondre only averaged, he had 6 carries for only 5 yards. So, going over 20 touches in this game for Henderson, despite the return of Stevenson, kind of shows us whose backfield this is.
Yeah, that's very notable. Jamar Chase, it's going to be the Jamar Chase show. Should be this Thursday night. Okay, the Lions and the Giants. The Lions escaping the jaws of defeat of barely winning this one in overtime. But, I mean, elite usage and just, the Lions' weapons are Jahmyr Gibbs is a stud. We already, everyone knows that. Giants looked, they certainly put up points with Jameis Winston. Or the Giants, I should say, yeah.
Absolutely. The Mike Kafka, the interim head coach, their offensive coordinator, did a nice job. Had them ready to play. It was a classic trap spot for the Lions, looking ahead to Thursday against the Packers, a game at home where they should feel pretty confident about it. And they, were a little bit asleep at the wheel at the start. Although the one thing to note with this Giants, there's a little bit of fool's gold in this performance. In that, and I love Jameis Winston. But the reality is that first quarter touchdown to Wan'Dale Robinson, that was on that reverse, and then they threw it back to him, and then it was a trick play. And then the second half touchdown, he caught the touchdown on the same thing. It was like a trick play. So those are sweet plays. Those are awesome. Tip of the cap. They did great. It was great game planning. They obviously identified, we think these things will work for these reasons. When you see a team do a trick play like that, they're not just we're going to practice this and then they run it whenever they want. They have specific situations, specific tendencies of opponents that they're trying to target. They're setting these things up. So when it works like that, you can't discount it. That's awesome. But it's also not something that you can rely on. Yeah. So great, disappointing for them that they did all that and then ended up with the loss, but they have a week 14 bye. So next week 13, they play the Patriots on Monday Night Football. Good segue. We just talked about the Patriots. But the big thing there is their run defense is it's just atrocious. It makes the Bengals look pretty solid. So Travion Henderson, wheels up for him in week 13 for sure. Also with that bye, I kind of think that they, especially for those of you who have Jameis Winston, the Patriots had some injuries to their line and their defense this last week. So, Jameis, he might have one more decent game in him in week 13. I think there's a chance they sit Dart on Monday night again before the bye week, and just, why rush him at this point? Everybody, and let us all have one more week with Jameis before they let Dart kind of finish things off for that last month of the season. And then the Lions, there's not a lot to talk about. Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. Amon-Ra St. Brown is awesome. I suppose the one thing is Jameson Williams laying an absolute goose egg and what seemed like a pretty good matchup. And when he did the old Charlie Brown, Lucy pulled the football on us. We all were convinced that, he has this, Dan Campbell's given him this big role. He's a focal point now, and he has no catches. I don't even know offhand. Let me pull it up. 3 targets, so no catches on 3 targets. And this is a game they trailed for most of it. So
is the split between Gibbs and Montgomery, I don't know if that has been getting wider and wider, because it feels like Gibbs, it feels a little game script dependent. Gibbs doesn't always get 12 targets.
Yeah, I think the targets thing is a lot more, that's dependent on game script, like they're playing from behind. The 12 targets, I think he had 11 receptions. Yeah, 11 receptions for only 45 yards. That was similar to week 1 against the Packers. I think he caught 10 or 11 passes for 30 yards. So just all these little check downs. To the Giants' credit, they didn't let him break those free. Like we saw, he had a couple of those last Monday night or Sunday night against the Eagles. But just the volume there, it's clear. I mean, they could say whatever they want. We talked about this heading into the week. There was a reporter had asked Dan Campbell about David Montgomery, and basically they were trying to lead him into it. They said, would you like to get David Montgomery the ball more? And Montgomery's a captain, he's, helped build the foundation of that team. And Dan Campbell said, yeah, of course, we'd love to get David the ball more. And so some people took that to be, he's going to be, take the workload of Gibbs and this and that. And maybe if they got up 21-3, that happens. But the reality is, they beat the Giants in overtime, and it took a historic performance from Gibbs to do it. So, they're not in any position to be toying around right now. They are in 3rd place in their own division. I certainly think they're, similar to we talked about the Ravens. They're in control of their own destiny. They play the Packers this week. They play the Bears in week 18. So take care of their business, and they'll probably still come out on top. But they don't have a margin for error to be toying with player usage based on feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Going from the Lions to, I think the next one, is the Packers. And like we teased in the open, man, J.J. McCarthy, he looks terrible. I mean, I didn't watch much of that game yesterday, but just know that he threw 2 straight picks, and Green Bay didn't really have to do a whole lot to win this game.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, frankly. It just is so out of sync. He dropped us. He fumbled a couple of snaps. Just everything was. Like I said, it's hard to watch. And the thing with him, and he's only 6 games into his career, so a lot of times you don't want to jump the gun on these situations. But the thing that's different with him, I think, is he has had 2 off seasons now, and he is with. A lot of these times, Cam Ward early in this season, he looked just as bad as McCarthy did yesterday. But he has a very poor supporting cast around him. Brian Callahan, nobody really thinks he's a good coach. Clearly, it's he's in a situation that you can kind of say, okay, it's early in his career, give this young guy some time. McCarthy he has an incredible supporting cast in terms of receivers. He has a head coach and a system that is just churning out quarterback production. That's part of the thesis on him was that, Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, all these different quarterbacks over the years have been able to thrive. Carson Wentz this year, some people have talked about like, well, their
Obviously, Kirk
offensive,
Cousins, and we've seen how
yeah,
he's been in Atlanta.
they've
Like, he was
said
good in Minnesota.
their offensive line issues, but like when they had their bad offensive line injuries, it was actually when he was out. They're not quite full strength, but it's a situation where to look as bad as he does, I saw a stat where it was like yesterday, his like overall efficiency is like his game yesterday was the 344th out of 346 performances this year for all quarterbacks or something like that. And yeah, I mean, watching it, like, yeah, I want to know who the other two are.
Yeah. Seriously, let's watch those. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's hopefully it's not. He doesn't own another one of those. Yeah, not good. And again, just tough sledding for the relatively star-studded cast that they have on that team with the receiving core of Addison and Jefferson. Hawkinson is maybe not quite back from the ACL.
Oh, he's got to be. He's like 2 years. He's almost 2 years removed from it.
Yeah, that's true. He should be. He absolutely should be. So, Packers-wise, Emmanuel Wilson got it done in the backup role for Josh Jacobs. Actually looked pretty solid.
Yeah.
And, Green Bay just didn't have to do anything. Like, offensively, 21 pass attempts.
Yeah, the pack. That's the thing that I probably underrated with Emmanuel Wilson with Josh Jacobs out this last week was with JJ McCarthy on the other side of that game environment, just what the Packers, what their play volume would end up, or how many, his specific volume was going to be very high. But he had a strong game,
carries.
Obviously, went over 100 yards, had 2 touchdowns. He only averaged 3.8 yards per carry. So,
yeah, he had a long of 12. Like, 12 was his longest run.
A lot of people are like, oh, what a smash. He was awesome. But also it's like, well, he had, the game script played perfectly into him. And that was probably a miss on my part, not just wanting to.
And
it's probably like a bias.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to believe that McCarthy wasn't as bad as he really is, but, or was, that I thought it would be like a 13-10 game. I thought he'd be able to at least, just keep them on the field. But the biggest thing is Jacobs probably comes back this Thursday, but he's had a calf thing. This is a knee bruise. So there's kind of starting to pile up. And if Jacobs misses more time, gets dinged up again, they won't hesitate to give Wilson the full workload, which that was the one thing a few weeks ago, there was, the prevailing thought was that Wilson and Brooks were kind of in like a tandem behind Jacobs, but it's very clear that Wilson is the main guy. Obviously, he was picked up yesterday, but even if Jacobs comes back, you don't drop him under any circumstance. And then for the receiving game, Christian Watson looks great. He's clearly their top wide receiver. Matthew Golden was out yesterday, but Watson, I think he's in store for a nice game this Thursday against Detroit. He'll be one of my primary DFS targets for that game against the Lions, who play a lot of man coverage, and I think he can make some plays downfield.
I like it. Okay. Colts, Chiefs getting the win in overtime, almost lost that one at home, but keeping their playoff hopes alive. Held Jonathan Taylor in check. Chiefs are just, they're so spread out. Kareem Hunt, 30 carries. Yeah, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Kareem Hunt, that's wild. Again, similar to the Emmanuel Wilson thing, he had 30 carries for 104 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, but just kind of the way the game script went. And, the thing with him, they signed Dameon Pierce, who I think, like, Pierce might walk in and be the most talented back on that roster. So he's a guy that we should probably be looking to pick up. In fact, in a lot of leagues, he's probably, because he had been dropped, you might still be able to pick him up right now. So if you can do that, like I know on Yahoo, you can pick a guy up. You could drop somebody who was on your bench, not from your starting lineup, but somebody from your bench you could drop, even if they played already, and pick Pierce up. So I think that might be kind of a sharp move for forward-looking managers. But Isaiah Pacheco also is likely to come back. So the Kareem Hunt 30 touch experience, that's probably going to be the last one of those, or even 20 touches for that matter. But he'll stay involved, but it'll be like some of these other backfields where there's not really anyone you can trust. Rashee Rice, monster game, made him and Xavier Worthy made one big catch late in the game, but mainly Rice was kind of the engine that led the comeback as Patrick Mahomes. You could feel the entire AFC for sure, and perhaps NFL pulling for the Colts in this one. Like, give them the knockout punch, so that. But they're another team that is just lurking there, and we know what they're capable of. And until Mahomes is officially eliminated, everybody else has got to be on notice.
That's right. Okay. The Seahawks and Titans. Man, super efficient game passing for the Seahawks with JSN. Just, man, I keep waiting for his target share to go down relative to like the number of pass attempts, but man, it just keeps going. Then, man, Cam Ward looked decent, had some rushing yards.
Yeah. On the Seattle side, like you said, Jackson Smith-Njigba, 10 targets on 26 pass attempts. That mid-20s is right where they want to live with Sam Darnold's pass attempts. And he just drops 8 for 167 and 2 like it's nothing. He was basically there through 3 quarters, or through like the middle of the third quarter. I don't think he caught a pass in the fourth quarter. But we know that. We know there's no receivers or tight ends really. Maybe AJ Barner if you're really in a bind at tight end in deeper leagues, specific to some matchups. But otherwise, you can't trust Shaheed or Kupp or any of those guys. The backfield is where it gets interesting. Kenneth Walker, he's kind of taken control of this backfield quietly. He had 30 snaps yesterday to only 15 for Zach Charbonnet, so twice the playing time. He had 15 opportunities, 11 carries, 4 targets. Charbonnet only had 6 carries. He did get the touchdown, so on the stat sheet it looks kind of close. It's like 13 for Walker and like 10 for Charbonnet in PPR, or roughly that. But the split has been, this is a couple straight weeks now where we've seen Walker kind of ascending. He gets the Vikings, who Emmanuel Wilson just lit up. He's at home. They're at home against the Vikings this coming week. So we know there will be plenty of volume for those running backs. That reunion, it's going to be really hard, I think, for Kevin O'Connell to watch Sam Darnold out there. That'll be an interesting narrative. Do they let him keep chucking just to remind them what they lost? But anyways, it'll be interesting game, and they're still in the thick of it for their division. They play the Rams again, this time at home in a few weeks. So despite how good the Rams looked last night, the Seahawks still alive.
Without a doubt. Okay, the Jags and the Cardinals. Let's see. Any major? I know that Brissett went down briefly. I think he did come back though, right?
Yeah. Let me quick on the Titans.
Oh yeah.
Chimere Dike had a real nice game. Caught 5 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown. Also returned a punt for a touchdown. Just an explosive player. Cam Ward, like you alluded to, had his best game of the season, really 256 passing yards and a touchdown. Also ran for 37 yards and a touchdown. So his best game of the season against a very difficult opponent. DK clearly has ascended to be that top target. And if Ward can continue to play well, DK will, he'll be in store for some nice games. Next week they play the Jaguars, which is the next game you wanted to talk about. Travis Etienne took back control of the Jaguars backfield. Jacoby Myers, he scored a touchdown, as did Parker Washington. They were without Brian Thomas Jr. again this week. Brenton Strange, the tight end, he returned and had a nice game, over 90 receiving yards, led the team in that facet. But we've seen this a lot with Jacksonville throughout the year. They're another one of those teams that kind of spreads things out, and it's hard to hard to really trust anyone or expect any really, really big performances from their wide receivers and tight ends. So just something to keep in mind. And Thomas coming back is just going to complicate that even more. And then Travis Etienne, he's like the one guy we can trust there. On the Arizona side, we had Jacoby Brissett, again, peppering targets to the Michael Wilson and Trey McBride tandem. Wilson, 15 targets, caught 10 for 118, proved last week was not a joke. McBride, 9 for 79. Greg Dortch broke a long touchdown. I'll be interested if they get Marvin Harrison Jr. back this coming week. That could complicate things a little bit, but I think more so just makes them a little bit tougher to cover because you kind of saw it in the second half in this game. They've been putting up fantasy stats, but this game stayed close, and so they weren't being given some of the targets, and some things were being taken away. It was just getting a little bit tougher for them. Jacoby Brissett was sacked 6 times, which that's now last week against the 49ers was the only game where he hasn't taken several sacks. So, it'll be interesting to see how they finish out the season. But obviously, Brissett's their guy. They're sticking with him. He came back in the game, so I'm not too worried. But they get the Buccaneers next week, who got diced up by the Rams and are kind of reeling right now.
I mean, do you think this volume for Brissett continues? I mean, 49 pass attempts a week after he had 57.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like they play. We'll talk about the Bucs later, but they looked bad last night, very bad. Baker Mayfield, he hurt his shoulder. His status is in question. So it's one of those things similar to the McCarthy thing, like 57 pass attempts in week 11, 49 this week. If they're not getting pushed like that, if the game script isn't getting to where they're really having to chuck it around the yard, are they going to? And the Buccaneers defense, the way they play, the way they blitz, it's a little bit different look than some of the teams they've been playing recently. Kind of similar to like the Seahawks in terms of scheme and how they'll probably attack them, but I don't know that the Bucs in their current state have the firepower to build a quick early lead that forces Arizona to just be chucking it. A lot to be seen on the injury report with Mayfield, with Harrison, before we can really kind of get a good grasp on which way that game's going to go.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Okay, so the Cleveland Browns, man, do they finally have their quarterback? And the Raiders, I mean, do we even talk about them? There's probably some interesting usage notes, but this is a very sad situation. Just not a good situation right now for the Raiders, even though obviously they still have Brock Bowers. So they have fantasy relevance, certainly, every week.
Yeah, the Browns, the Raiders were so they fired Chip Kelly today. I don't know if you saw that. Their offensive coordinator. Geno Smith took 10 sacks against the Browns' elite defense this week. So he threw 44 passes and took 10 other sacks. They averaged under 3 yards per carry. Ashton Genty, he got there. He caught 8 passes, touched the ball 25 times, had over 100 total yards, and scored a touchdown.
Offense, dude, Genty would be a stud.
Yeah. He makes some plays where he's making 2 or 3 guys miss. He's carrying guys at the end, but it doesn't matter when you're taking that many negative plays throughout the game. It's hard to get a good read. It's hard to know what the Raiders are going to do going forward with a new offensive coordinator. It's hard to change much at this point. But Genty and Brock Bowers are basically the only guys you can even consider putting in a lineup. They are a team that you'll probably want to be like targeting for, like, if you're streaming defenses, just because they've been taking a ton of sacks all year. So they get the Chargers, who are fresh off a bye this coming week. And then after that, it's the Broncos, Eagles, and Texans, which are 3 teams that I'm guessing everybody already has on a roster. But, if you play against any of those teams during those weeks, sorry, you're probably going to give up like a 20 spot to the opposing defense. And then Cleveland, yeah, I mean, Sanders, he threw his touchdown pass was a screen pass that a running back ran 70 yards with.
Yeah.
Quinshon Judkins had a concussion scare, but he came back in the game, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, most of what Sanders did, he made two great plays. The downfield pass to Isaiah Bond, I mean, he made a guy miss, and then on the move, he put one, it was a dot. He put it on the mark, 45 yards downfield. Got tackled at the 2, set up a Judkins touchdown. And then he made another nice play to Jerry Jeudy when Jeudy, I don't know what the hell he was doing, and got it stripped from behind. He stopped running. But yeah, I mean, those 2 plays were nice, but he really didn't do a lot else, but he didn't really have to. So I think jury's kind of still out. They did announce he will be starting again this coming week. So yeah, I mean, the truth usually lies somewhere in the middle of his haters and his the people touting him. He wasn't awful, but he didn't have to be great. That sort of thing. But you look at the schedule, and he's got the 49ers, who their defense is completely depleted, and they'll be playing on a short week. That's who they play this week. And then it's the Titans and the Bears and the Bills, who we've said they have. We talked about their structural issues. And then a tougher game against the Steelers, and then week 18 they play the Bengals. So he's got a great schedule down the stretch to lean on his defense, lean on his running game, and just kind of be a game manager. For as flashy and as big name as he is, and how he's so polarizing, he's really what he is, and what he needs to be is just a game manager, which is kind of ironic considering the whole persona.
Yeah, I just real quick, we got someone in the comments here. I don't know if we want to do this or not, but he said he's asking for trade advice. She says trade Lamb, London. You see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any advice for him, Mike? Roster
Lamb, London, and Judkins for CMC and Devontae Smith. There's probably too many dynamics there to really get into. That would
right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, CMC. So CMC has a bye in week 14, which is a big deal if you're a team that needs to get in the playoffs. London, he has an injury. We don't know his situation. CeeDee Lamb, we'll probably talk about in this next game, but there's a lot of dynamics there, depending on your league and what your record is and all that sort of thing. But looks like overall pretty fair, even trade there. It just would depend on what your team needs are.
Yeah, priorities, exactly. And sorry, we missed you, D-Hops 5158. What's up? Back to, let's see, Dallas, Philly next here. And Philly, I mean, the offense looked good in the first half. That's where they're 21-0. Then they got outscored by 24 from there. So they ended up losing. What's your takeaways from this one?
Yeah, I mean, the Philly passing game kind of got going. A.J. Brown had, I believe, that's his second best game of the year. This game and I think the Vikings game, I think he might have put up a bigger number than this. Or he had 2 touchdowns in the Viking game.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, A.J. Brown, big game after a lot of attention all week, 8 for 110 and a touchdown. Devontae Smith had pretty much a similar game. He had 6 for 89, was tackled at the 1, and drew a couple penalties as well, and had a couple catches that were called back by penalty. So, 2 guys pretty even across the board. Smith had 11 targets, Brown 10. Still just guys that you probably have to start each week. They play the Bears this coming week, so they actually play on Black Friday, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, the Saquon Barkley, I talked about this during the week, the Cowboys' run defense just being better than as they are currently created. They are better than their season-long statistics. They've gotten some guys back from injury. They traded for some guys, so they are they're not like a shutdown run defense. Part of this was Philly kind of sucking, but Saquon Barkley only had 10 carries for 22 yards in a game that they were up 21-0. So continue to be a play calling masterpiece for Kevin Patullo this season. But yeah, I mean, they're 8-3, and I was thinking about it throughout the game. When those afternoon games are on, there's less going on. You kind of get more time to think about stuff because I don't have late swaps or anything I'm doing with DFS, and there's less games, so I'm not trying to track as much. There's kind of some breaks, and they kind of remind me of like last year's Chiefs, where the Chiefs continued to win these close games and kind of grind it out, but it felt like it was like the Jesse Pinkman. You can't keep getting away with it, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, they're going to get away with it again because like they let the Cowboys back into it, and I thought they were just going to like pull it off and get away with it, but they didn't. So very concerning, I think, for them in the postseason. I don't think there's any. I mean, they're 3 games up still on the Cowboys. Like they're going to make the playoffs. That's not a concern. But they have the Bears on Friday. They've still got games against the Raiders and twice against the Commanders. So they're going to host a first round game. They could still get a bye depending on how things go down the stretch. They've got the tiebreaker against the Rams. So, but yeah, there's some structural issues they're going to have to figure out. And hat tip to the Cowboys, their defense is better. They've improved. And then George Pickens, he was a man amongst boys. Some of those catches he made, it doesn't matter who was covering him in those spots. He made those, Dak put it on him and he made the play. So credit to Dallas for that.
Yep, and you're starting these guys regardless. I mean, you're starting CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he had like 3 drops, but still, you're starting Ferguson. You're starting all these guys.
Yeah, for sure. Ferguson had, I believe, 5 catches for 60 yards. So a nice game there. Lamb 4 for 75. He was targeted 11 times, dropped 3 passes. It's ironic he has, the majority of his drops for the season have been in the 2 Eagles games. But yeah, I mean, it very easily could have been, 6 or 7 catches for 120 yards. Probably could have had a touchdown too.
He dropped a touchdown. It was a straight drop.
Yeah, he dropped a touchdown, and when Dak threw the interception in the end zone, if he had thrown it out ahead of him and kind of led him towards the back corner of the end zone, that could have been a touchdown too. So, it's easy to, if you just look at the stats for some of these guys, it's easy to get worried. But I think, he'll probably have a pretty solid game on Thanksgiving against the Chiefs. And then, Javonte Williams, still the lead back, 23 opportunities, went over 100 total yards. So, just keep firing him up.
Good stuff. Okay, I got 2 games to go here. The Falcons and the Saints. I mean, not a ton. Yeah, not a ton. I mean, just kind of a tough game. Obviously, there's still some stuff to discuss here, though. Yeah,
I think, the biggest thing probably is Alvin Kamara came out after the game that he had a knee injury. Devin Neal, the rookie running back, had 12 touches, had 61 yards on those touches. Taysom Hill got 10 carries as well. And this was in a game that, New Orleans lost. But their offense, the Falcons defense has been struggling. New Orleans, their 1 touchdown came on I believe it was on a return. A pick 6. Kyle Pitts dropped a pass and they ran it back. So, to not be able to score any points on a defense that is struggling, not a good sign for New Orleans at all. And then losing Kamara, he's not like a world-beating talent at this point, but Neal, I'm sure, will get, the majority of the work. They played the Dolphins, who are coming off a bye and will be fresh this coming Sunday. Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson, the main passing game targets there. And then, for Atlanta, we know Michael Penix Jr. is done for the season, but they should be. This was a nice little bounce back game. They did what they should do, really. And then they play the Jets this coming week. So that'll be an interesting one. They have to head to New York. Bijan Robinson, I'm sure, will be busy. Hopefully they can get London back as well.
Awesome. Good stuff. And then with that, our final game, the Rams taking care of business and just completely blowing out Tampa Bay. It was 31-7 at half. The final score was 34-7.
Yeah, the big thing there is, I mean, and we've kind of seen it. The Bucs were a fun team to root for, and like people were talking about Baker Mayfield MVP when they were like, I think they were 5-1 at one point. I'd have to double check that, but they got off to a real nice start to the season. Won a bunch of close games. Baker was having a lot of late game heroics, kind of like the Eagles thing. Like you can only live like that for so long, really. So they were 5-1, and then they've lost 3 in a row, 4 of their last 5. Their only win in that stretch was against that Saints team we were talking about. I mean, definitely cause for concern. And now Baker Mayfield, he goes down. Teddy Bridgewater came in, but their offense it looks very vanilla. Doesn't have much creativity, much explosiveness. Sean Tucker obviously had the massive game against the Bills, which is what running backs do against the Bills. But in this game, the Rams defense showed that they're a Super Bowl contender. They weren't messing around.
Yeah,
they took care of business. And then on their side, it's hard to glean much from the backfield usage. Tampa Bay is always tough for running backs, and just Stafford showed out, and they didn't really have to do much. So Blake Corum was still pretty involved in that one, but it's the Puka and Devontae show, and then all their tight ends in the passing game.
Yeah, they do a lot of tight ends. All right, man, that will wrap it up, guys. Make sure to be tuning in throughout the week on oneweekseason.com. Obviously, our YouTube channel will be having a lot of content this week as per usual. Obviously, a little bit more with Thanksgiving slate. Should be a fun one, guys. Enjoy the holiday. Mike, appreciate your time as always.
Absolutely. Good to see you, and looking forward to all the stuff this weekend. Happy holidays to everybody.
All right, guys. We'll see you.